I still remember how it used to be. Holding hands, running wild and free. Crossed our hearts, said we'd never let go. I still think about our younger days, how we dreamed about a better life. Holding you so close to me, in the backseat of your ride. We fell apart, thought we lost everything, just lost in a memory. And I sure hope you do remember me like I remember you. Like I remember you. Like I remember you. We drew our names in the pavement, thinking about how we never change. I still remember how it used to be. I still think about our younger days, how we dreamed about a better life. Holding you so close to me, in the backseat of your ride. We fell apart, thought we lost everything, just lost in a memory. And I sure hope you do remember me like I remember you. Like I remember you.
The stream will be starting in about 30 seconds.
Like I remember you.
That was Remember You by Conroe. Ba-doop. Why isn't it showing? Let me see if I can get it to show again. Because I don't know if it did. And the last stream that I was doing was just god awful. I was playing Call of Duty and my fucking internet was just not working with me at all. Oh god. I know I put the title for I feel like being annoyed. But god, I got way too annoyed on that one. Alright. While that does its own thing, welcome back to Mask of the Plague Doctor by Peter Parrish. This is Chapter 11. If you don't remember what the hell happened in Chapter 10, oh boy, I don't even want to recall it. Just a bunch of things. The fucking mayor lost their power. Oh god. I basically ruined the trust between me and someone else. And then frickin' what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the Baron's not going to be happy with me, I'm pretty sure. He is going to want some words with me. But here we go. I made these decisions, so I'm going to have to deal with them. Mask of the Plague Doctor by Peter Parrish, Chapter 11. These hollow eyes seek slumber deep. Be sure to hold this in your head, Fastrada, you say, demonstrating by pressing the cloth-swaddled mixture against the old woman's ear. I could find no barley, but the betony and vervain will ease your discomfort. The small copper pot with which you boiled the concoction sits upon the simple cooking fire, at the center of this tiny dwelling, still sizzling. Vervain, she replies, holding the bundle in place at your instruction. Does the sage's herb still flourish in these dark seasons? You smile beneath your mask. Without fail, every town in this region refers to the plant as the herb of their local deity. We are fortunate that it flowers within the walls of Thornback Hollow, you tell her. A spot close to the northern wall was found by a colleague of mine, before the snows came. I thank you, Fastrada says, for coming at my request and tending to an old woman's ailments. She underplays the severity. When first you arrived, the pain in her ear prevented her from even standing. The walking death may direct my time, you say, but other maladies do not rest while it is ascendant. Ioko swore to send word of any developments with the white lichen, and Fastrada's home lies only a short distance east of the sanctuary. Still, your mind is not at ease. The feeling that you should remain to the oaken towers is an incessant intrusion. If I may ask, she pauses, her frail frame hunched upon the chair, in the clutches of pain or tense indecision. Go on, you say, irritated at your own impatience. My nephew, he has a flapped tongue. Says the mayor is gone. Is that so? 2 cycles of winter sun have passed, yet every variation of rumor still circulates among the populace. Well, let's see. You spoke true. Sybil Blake has been overthrown in a glorious uprising. Alas, it is so. The crown's appointed mayor has been deposed. It is true, but I believe her departure shall mark a new beginning, imprisoned no less than she deserves. Neither one of these. I don't want to sound like a crown's lackey too much. I'll go with this one. It is true, but I believe her departure shall mark a new beginning. But Fastrada smiles. Your optimism is like a warm spring morning, she says. Soothes my old bones right through. Aw. Good to hear, you reply with a nod of thanks. Oh, but I do worry, though, she continues, her expression already sliding back to a look of vexation. With no mayor, who shall run the town? Who will save us from this plague? Alviva Frith will care for the people, you reply. And my fellow plague doctors and I can be only days, perhaps hours from a breakthrough. I can sense it. If you believe it to be so, then I trust you, she says, though her voice betrays doubts. Remember to keep the medicine bundle tight to your ear, you say as you show yourself out, until the pain starts to relent. A sliver of pale winter sunshine cuts across the main street of Thornback Hollow. You feel it warm the back of your neck as you cross through it and pass once more into shadow. In the middle distance, you see a ragged and stooped pioneer, scouring the doorways and foundations of the adjoined dwellings. Searching, no doubt, for materials to barter or unwitting wildlife for sustenance. The rest of the town appears calm at this early hour. You put your ear to the breeze, but no sounds of skirmish carry on today's air. Few remained openly loyal to Sybil Blake once power changed hands. If there are any counter-revolutionaries, they have wisely opted to bide their time in silence. Another robed figure beyond the scavenger waves you closer. There's an unusual excitement to the familiar boar-masked man, and it causes you to quicken your step. Jack the Ripper! Ayako shouts as you get closer. The lichen! Come on! Some of his words are lost in the wind, but there is little doubt as to the subject of his enthusiasm. Rush to hear the news. Hey, confirm the source of the plague. Seeing your pace increase as his signal, Ayoko doesn't wait for you to reach him. He maintains a long stride, and by the time you catch up, the sanctuary gates are in sight. The subjects of our tests, you say between recuperating breaths, are they? Two showed no ill effects, he replies, but the one who received the highest dose. The surgeon's gait does not falter as the two of you pass beneath the entrance archway and cross the courtyard. Come on, he urges. Alice is waiting in the laboratory. Your other companion is pacing the cellar floors as you enter. Hey, Rocco! Jack the Ripper! She exclaims. We did it! I knew we would, but this... Oh, it feels absurd to be delighted in the onset of plague, but we did it! We found the source! At a cost, Ayoko says. Let's not forget. Alice gives a somber nod, but her restless hands betray her continued exuberance. I'm sorry about the rabbit, you tell him. I know you were fond of them. Poor things can't rest, he replies, his voice quiet. Won't ever know what service it has done for us. Is there anything we can do? The question seems futile, but you feel compelled to ask. Same thing we can do for those in the infirmary. Find a cure. If not, I'll let the creature imbibe the dignity of a peaceful end. Then, what now? Now, Alice says, we apply this knowledge to further study. She rubs her forearm in thought. It may be nothing, but the rabbit to whom we administered a low dose of the white lichen appeared to develop a brief and minor irritation around its nose and mouth. I presume we're taking strict precautions with whatever remains of our lichen sample. There's a small amount of it left, she says. It's secured and locked away. You follow her gesture to a small wooden box with a carved design on its surface, sitting on one of her benches. Alko, you and I should re-examine the deceased for internal signs of the lichen. Alice and I should scour medical text for any mention of this lichen or its properties. This lichen flourished in the town's darkest reaches. I wish to commune with the dweller. It's one of these two. I think the dweller might know a bit more about them. But it might also prove useful to go and find any medical text for mention of them. But you know what? Maybe if I choose this one right here at the bottom, maybe they would already go and do those things that, I could join them on. This lichen flourished in the town's darkest reaches. I wish to commune with the dweller. But your colleagues remain silent, exchanging glances in a manner that suggests one is waiting for the other to respond first. What sort of aid do you suppose this entity can offer? Ayoko asks. I have no particular complaints with the way Aylwin Blake is overseeing the sanctuary, but he's not the same shy lad we met at the mayor's manor. He's growing up, you reply. His life was controlled by his mother. This new devotion has given him meaning. Jack the Ripper, I don't think his changes in behavior can be attributed to immaturity, Alice remarks. Listen, you say, trying to bring the topic back to the white lichen. We discovered the source of our plague, blossoming on ancient roots, and seen an underground sect dedicated to a deity that thrives upon the sleep of others. I cannot be the only one of us that sees two strings in need of a knot. You've spoken of being troubled by visions, Alice says. I won't prevent you from attempting this, just be careful. I'm requesting assistance from a deity just as others do, you reply. Now a quiet, contemplative space will work best. Your colleague turns Ayoko away. I believe Jack the Ripper is insinuating that we leave him to his communion. Somebody knocks on the doorframe. The sound makes you turn. Standing in the doorway, you see a man with a hand against his side. He's out of breath and takes his other hand off the frame, holding it aloft to signal you should give him a moment. The red sash tells you he was sent by Aviva Frith. The Thornback Council requires your presence at the emergency meeting, he gasps, pointing in your direction. Is this as urgent as it appears? You ask, not wishing to be pulled away from the task at hand. We've made a critical discovery and may be at the cusp of more. That's splendid news and quite a posit for this gathering. Those in attendance will be addressing the critical food shortages affecting the town and debating appropriate punishments for Sybil Blake and her ilk. Ooh. The messenger tells you, finding his voice once more. As well as hearing proposals for the cessation of the plague. What? Why me, you ask? Either one of my colleagues would be an able surrogate in my stead. The messenger spreads his hand uncertain. I presume our new council has its reasons. My instructions were clear, to bring the doctor in the crow mask. Go, Jack the Ripper, Aller says. One of us should be here, and it seems they have made their choice. You sigh, irritated that your entreaties to the dweller you will have to be delayed. Accompanied by the messenger, you depart once again for the upper quarter. At the manor once more. What up? You see laborers crossing back and forth across the frozen manor lawn, carrying boxes, barrels, and containers. A woman in a pair of A woman in a pair of tall boots shouts directions. All food to the designated pantries and storage holes, she declares, pointing the way toward a mansion adjacent to the Mayor Manor. Why did I get a message? I got voicemails. Clothing is to be collected at Barlow House. A man with a pair of woolen coats draped over each shoulder alters his route, heading instead toward a large dwelling at the southern tip of the semicircle of homes. A pair of sentries lounge by the manor entrance, one wearing a red sash, the other in a dark blue and of Blake's old militia. You couldn't swear to them being awake. That you, Tolly? Your accompanying messenger asks one of the guards, tilting his head in an effort to get a better look. Haven't got much sharper since you switched sides, I see. During a siege, follow where the food goes. During a siege, follow where the food goes, the guard replies, opening one eye to peer at the two of you. Here to see the council, I assume? A languid arm emerges from inside his blue tunic, waves you on, and is tucked back inside. Tell 'em to up our rations. You pass through the entrance hall. Its wooden floor is still stained by blood. One of Sybil Blake's heraldic banners peeks out from beneath sheets of red cloth, tossed and draped over the upper balcony. Another lies abandoned and tattered in the shadow of a side corridor. From the dining room you hear raised voices. The messenger directs you towards them. And without our labor, you have no timber. Aviva Frith leans on her cane behind the grand oaken table, flanked by Mally and another guild member you do not recognize. Opposite, his arms folded, sits a man wearing the attire of a Thornback merchant and a sour expression. We will not continue to pay shipping fees, warehouse rents, and exorbitant tributes to the crown at the expense of our people. Aviva continues, nodding with recognition at your arrival. Besides which, we have more urgent matters to address. Welcome, Doctor, she says, raising her cane a short distance in greeting. Your presence will be most critical at this gathering. Didn't seem as if I had much of a choice. Frankly, I would rather be attending to the plague. Glad to be of service to the Mayor of Thornback Hollow. If my expertise can help ease this town's pain, I'm happy. I think I'll go with this one. If my expertise can help ease this town's pain, I'm happy to share it. But you see, she says, turning to those in attendance, did I not assure you that the physician would understand this town's plight? There is great suffering among the townsfolk, you reply. I will do what I can to alleviate it. Quite so. A beast waits outside our walls, waiting for an excuse to consume our streets. As long as hunger and plague persist, this threat will not abate. You nod. What do you require of me? The council bestows upon you full emergency medical powers. she announces to murmurs of approval. When you are outside of this hall, any action you deem necessary for the health of the town may be carried out with our tacit authority. Tacit? Tacit? I don't know how to pronounce that. If any would seek to stand in your way, present them with this decree. Rising with the supportive aid of the oak table, Alviva approaches you with parchment in hand. She hands you the edict with a slight incline of her head, then makes her way back to her seat. My colleagues and I will use this power wisely, you assure the room. Indeed, we already have good news to relay. The source of the plague has been confirmed. We were in the process of embarking on our next steps when I was summoned to the. Your words are drowned out by other voices in the room. Attendees turn to one another, sparked into discussion by a revelation. Alviva bangs the head of her cane against the table's edge, calling for calm. You speak of your expedition beneath Thornback Hollow, emphasizing that it was prompted by suspicion that Sybil Blake was profiting off a breach in the town quarantine. The room is quiet, save for the gentle spit and crackle of the fireplace. As you describe harvesting the white lichen and the process of experimentation, which is how we have deduced that this substance, in high enough doses, can cause the walking death, you conclude. And how do you intend to proceed? Alviva asks. My colleagues and I have settled on our next course of action, you reply, explaining the decision you've made before your departure for the manor. Very good, Alviva says. Let us hope this progress continues apace. Alviva clears her throat. As if the walking death were not trouble enough, many in our town are near starvation, Alviva says. Guild members were reduced to stripping the bark from the remaining timber. Every animal hide vanished from the tannery. The sadness in her expression gives way to anger. And while the people debated themselves eating rodents and dirt, Sybil Blake and her cohorts had their picks of meat and delicacies. No longer! Malleus shouts, raising her fist. Her gesture is met with rousing cheers for several at the table. You note that those in wealthier attire are more restrained in their celebration, or do not respond at all. Sybil Blake will answer for her crimes, Alviva says, waiting for the noise to subdue. But let us not inflate her influence beyond its reach. We hold power now, and the responsibility of feeding Thornback Hollow lies with us. I saw members of the guild transporting food across the manor lawn, you say. Is that not enough to delay this crisis? For a day or two, perhaps more if it is distributed with caution, she replies. You look around the room. The brief moment of joy ignited by Mally's outburst has slipped back into sullen gloom. In the silence, you sense an opportunity to put forward a suggestion of your own. I implore the town's wealthiest to provide from their own supplies. I recommend requisitioning every morsel of food in the upper quarter and mercantile district. I have an expedient proposal: distribute food to new militia recruits as Sybil Blake did. I encourage a triage approach, distributing food to those most likely to survive. Woo! Yikes. I don't know if I want to go with that one. That's a risky move right there. Yeah, these two, I don't know about this one. Let's see. Which one should I choose? I implore the town's wealthiest to provide their own supplies. I recommend requisitioning every morsel of food in the upper quarter and mercantile district. They're both, good freaking last ditch survival things, efforts, both of them. But I don't know if the town's wealthiest are willing to provide any food. This is going to have to be communism for a small period. This is forcing people's food to be taken away. This right here is asking for the wealthy to provide from their own supplies. I'm not sure how much they have. I don't know if it's going to be enough for everyone. And I don't know if they're willing to do it or if, if they'll be able to survive um, off of what they have. Because I don't know how much they got. Uh, but if I requisition every morsel of food in the upper quarter and mercantile district, I guess it would. Hmm. This is a tough one. I implore the town's wealthiest to provide from their own supplies. I think they might be able to make do. Uh, but then again, I don't know how much they store. That's a tough one. Because I don't want them to starve either. I'm not sure if this choice right here is going to just take away all their food and never give it back to them. Because I'm not sure if they'll. Mm. But if the upper quarter and mercantile district are the wealthier people, right? Then doesn't that mean that whoever. Hmm. I am not big enough brain for this one. Uh, this choice is asking. This choice is taking away. So, if anyone's feeling charitable enough to make sure that we survive, this will probably be a good opportunity for anyone who has the opportunity to provide supplies. To provide them for anyone who's not able to make do on their own without forcing them to do anything. You had not immediately noticed Mariota Y's attendance. The would-be power broker has taken care to position herself in an unassigning seat, some distance away from the town's new ruler. You wonder whether the person seated at the head of the table is aware of how far Mariota's superstitious web of alliances and influence extends. For that matter, are you? Her mouth forms an unreadable smile as she catches your mask looking in her direction. Aw. This town has its share of wealthy families, you say, and in such times of strife, it is proper for the affluent to assist the suffering. I do not presume to know the teachings of your sage of oak, but I have learned in my travels that many deities are honored by selfless deeds. We scour at every manor, Alviva says, gesturing outside with her cane. The rich have given up their bounty, but we are still left wanting. There are no more supplies in those buildings. Not those buildings. No. Mariota's words cause all heads to turn away. Oh. Not those buildings. No. Okay. When Baron Morland's forces first crested the horizon, those with means and foresight impounded a significant amount of food that was bound for trade passage through our town. There is a dwelling in the mercantile district where you will find what you need to feed the populace for several more cycles of the sun. She flicks her left hand in your direction with a delicate motion. I have met with the one in the crow mask before and found him to be a person of substance. Consider this a final gesture of good faith. Ah. Very well, Elvira replies, her tone wary. In light of your generosity, we are prepared to overlook the manner in which this food was concealed. There is much we should discuss, Marita says, with dispassionate grace. Another matter is at hand. Avert starvation with your suggestion to the authorities. Over Aviva's shoulder, you see a servant's door open and a figure in a red guild sash step out. She crosses the short distance to the guild head's side. a ring of large keys on her belt jingling with each step. Attention drawn by the sound. Alviva turns her head and mouths a greeting you do not hear. The two of them exchange words and nods before the figure clinks and strides back forward to the entrance from which they emerge toward. The foot of Aviva's cane strikes the floor twice in succession, quieting the pockets of discussion around the room. Before the assembled crowd of Thornback Hollow, the tyrant Sybil Blake will now be judged for her crimes, she declares. Bring her forth. Dressed in clean, simple robes with her hands bound, the former mayor is ushered into the room by the woman with the ring of keys. Sybil keeps her head held high, looking above the heads of the assembled citizens as she is walked around to the foot of the oaken table. As they came to a halt, she casts a withering look at her guard, who takes a short step back. You are accused of, Alviva begins. It is you who has violently ousted a crown official from their position, Sybil says, in an unwavering voice. You are a traitor with no authority. Any who follow this woman have no right to judge me. If she had more to say, the words are drowned out by the sound of Alviva's crane. It's really hard to say her name. The tyrant will be silent, the guild leader declares. You are accused of hoarding food during a siege. Providing for myself and my family is not a crime. Silence! Grievous oppression of the town's citizenry, theft. Nonsense. Theft of property and the breaking of a crown-sanctioned quarantine. Not a word of truth, Sybil replies, her tone loud and defiant. A feeble cover for your treasonous actions. Alviva raises her hand. It takes you a moment to realize they are gesturing you forward. Oh, okay. Doctor, can you describe what you learned about a smuggling operation beneath this town? Relay what you know. There was an organization promising to escort people out of town, in exchange for property and possessions, you say, taking care to detail only what you know. We found recent remains in the tunnels beneath Thornback Hollow that suggest many of those people never made it beyond the walls. A man named Skinner informed us that his residence has been used to house prospective escapees on the mayor's orders. Preposterous, Sybil scoffs. Hearsay and rumor. We took a deed of property from the hands of two smugglers named Thomas and Turbert. It was signed over to the mayor, the former mayor, for no recompense. You produced the document and presented it to Alviva. A forgery, the prisoner insists, though her speech betrays a quiver of doubt. You had the resources and the ambition, you say. Everything pointed back to you. Sybil Blake, Alviva says with quiet rage, for the abuses and injustices of your rule, you are condemned to death by the citizenry of Thornback Hollow. Are there any here who would speak against this judgment? Traitors! The old mayor shouts, glaring at those seated in attendance whom she may once have considered loyal. Traitors and betrayers! This trial is a farce! When the crown hears of this, you will all burn. The guard begins to drag her away. Let's see. What choices do I have? Do not do this. Begin your rule with mercy, not a killing. That would be a good way to start the rule. Hold, as a physician, I must protest this use of intentional harm. Wait, she must be of more use to you alive. She still has support of this in this town. Do not make her more popular in death. The punishment is just I say nothing. I want to say either this one or this one. I think it should be this one. Do not do this. Begin your rule with mercy, not a killing. Wait, you say, causing the guards to pause. I do not question Sybil Blake's guilt, but I urge you to reconsider her fate. Your ambition is realized. A council of laborers, farmers, and merchants now sits in control of the town. Must more blood be shed in search of vengeance? Listen to the physician, Sybil says, eyes still wide from her invective. He may just save your skin. The guard grasps her arm beneath the shoulder, silencing her. You plead for clemency, Alviva says, ignoring the former mayor and giving you a curious look. For what purpose? Though you are not a citizen of this town, you have witnessed this tyrant's crimes firsthand. No ulterior schemes, no grand plan, you say, spreading your arms apart. I ask for mercy for its own sake, and so your time in charge does not begin with an execution. You have an honesty to you that I find admirable, physician. The guild leader looks at you, as if trying to discern some layered truth from the lines and marks upon your mask. She sighs. But the council cannot grant your request. Sybil Blake has squeezed life and riches from the laborers of Thornback Hollow, risked the health of every surrounding town in her greed for property, allowed her militia to suppress dissent wherever it rose. This council is nothing if it does not represent the people, and the people will not accept anything other than death. Now you see, Sybil sneers, when the town demands blood, their ruler must answer. Take her away, Alviva commands, motioning to the guard. See that none visit her before the morrow. Aylwin! The former mayor cries, all trace of smug superiority now absent from her face. She jerks her head back and forth, searching without hope for one who is not present. My son! Do not deny me a last look at my son! Her protestations persist as the guard hauls her away through the servants' doorway. You hear them echo in the corridor for a time until the last traces of her voice fade into silence. Alviva exchanges words with Mally. Damn it. I just couldn't think of a use that she could have had. Maybe there was a way she could have been useful. How the hell could she have been useful, though? Damn it. You are no doubt eager to return to your medical duties, the guild leader says, turning back your way. The council thanks you for your attendance and for providing a voice on matters of import. It has been instructive. Before I leave, you reply, I am curious about your intentions toward Aylwin Blake. The heir, yes, Alviva says, her eyes darting back Molly's way. There are some concerns within the guild that he remains influential in town affairs. Do not obscure your true thoughts. You fear he may retain designs on the mayoral seat. Nothing fearful about it, Mally scoffs, puffing out her chest. That boy belongs to the old regime. His blood is a threat. Ugh. Didn't take you as scared of a little blood, Mally. One of the other guild members remarks. That whelp would gut us all as revenge for his dear mummy, she snaps. He has no interest in succeeding his mother, you say. Speak to him at the sanctuary. You will find he has devoted himself to the Dweller in Thorns. Invoking malevolent deities, Mally exclaims. That's even more cause for vigilance. Jesus Christ, this lady just wants blood. No matter how you feel about the Dweller, Aylwin has done nothing wrong. You're right to be concerned. I believe the Dweller is blah blah blah. Aylwin has not yet done anything wrong. Perhaps he could be observed. I'd probably say something like this. I don't know if that's a good decision compared to this, but... No matter how you feel about the dweller, Elwyn has done nothing wrong. He's Sybil Blake's heir, Mally insists. I'd have no quarrel with the boy, but he represents Elwyn Blake is not his mother, you say. He should not be judged as such. All right, silence, Elviva calls. I've heard enough, counselors. Until the boy presents any direct opposition to our authority, I am content to let him be. We have far more immediate problems than a wayward heir. Thank you, you say, offering a farewell and making your way back to the entrance hallway of the manor. As you step out, you hear the guild leader's voice behind you. No pardons for members of Sybil Blake's militia found to have committed atrocities against our citizens. Tribunals will be scheduled for the coming days. Hurry back to the sanctuary. As you walk the track that descends from the upper quarter, you look over the western wall of Thornback Hollow, toward Baron Moreland's camp. The distance and geography of the land make it difficult to see much beyond the flicker and flap of raised banners. But as you stop and stare, you could swear that you see more movement than usual upon the far horizon. The light shifts as denser clouds are blown across the sun, casting long gray shadows over the abandoned farmlands outside the town. You turn your head away and return to the descent. Awaiting you at the base of the hill is a scene of desperation. Scores of malnourished townsfolk have dragged their shivering bodies to the streets, gathering in huddles of 3 or 4, hoping for sign of relief for the manor or houses above. They carry no weapons, and the weakened frames pose little individual threat, but you feel exposed as one of the citizens points towards you, drawing the crowd's attention to your approach. You recall passing a pair of sentries many yards back up the slope. Down here, you are alone. At first, the people seem to shy away from your mask, but as you reach the town's main thoroughfare, a few bolder citizens approach you, begging for food in overlapping voices. My family have not eaten, and so does the guild even care that we are? Doctors, please, in need of a bite, just one morsel. More townsfolk begin to surround you. I push through them without comment. I share some of my food with them. I promise that the new regime is working to feed the people. I delight in bringing them the good news from the meeting. Food is coming. I think I'll go with this one. I delight in bringing them good news from the meeting. Food is coming. I can bring you glad tidings, you say, beaming beneath your mask. I have just come from a meeting at the manor. Food is coming. Your hardships shall soon be alleviated. Your words spread quickly through the crowd. Around you, people cry and fall to their knees in the dirt-brown snow. They praise the sage, offer thanks to the new council, and embrace one another. Sage bless you, doctor, a man says, tears rolling down his sallow face. You linger for a while, enjoying the adulation, before bidding the citizens farewell. Your demeanor has left them full of hope, but whether their desperate needs can be truly met by the supplies you have attempted to arrange remains to be seen. Hurry away. Once back at the sanctuary, you find Ayoko and Alice still working in the cellar laboratory. What news from the manor? Ayoko asks. Was it worth the walk? You dig inside your robes, producing the piece of parchment. We've been granted emergency authority, you say, handing it over to your colleagues to study. And food is getting even more scarce. Contingencies are in place, but supplies may only last a few more days. Then we may yet have time to save this town, Alice says. Sybil Blake is to lose her head, you add. A just outcome. More needless bloodshed. Your colleagues' replies are almost in unison. Ayoko looks at Alice from behind his mask, then passes the parchment over with a short laugh. Think this is worth anything? She asks, after studying the scrawled text. May make some think twice about denying us a request. You shrug, accepting the parchment back and tucking it away. Beyond that, I doubt it will sway anyone in a real position of real power. Speaking of power, Ayoko hesitates for a moment, then gestures around the room. Are you still planning to use this place for? I intend to commune with the dweller in thorns, yes, you reply. Then we'll make ourselves scarce, Alice says, rearranging some equipment at her bench. Just recall what we said. I'll be sure to take care. Wait for them to depart. You clear a space in the center of the cellar floor, using the tip of your boot to mark out a loose circle in the dust. Since for once you have time to prepare, you may as well go through the motions of communion. Selecting a handful of robust candles, you place them at the boundaries of your crude outline. Satisfied with your design, you make your way around the walls, ensuring all other torchlight is extinguished. The flickering illumination of your circle guides you back, and you seat yourself at its heart, cross-legged and prepared. Your eyes close. A darkness descends, its slick surface vibrant and pulsing. Give me a moment. Ba-da-ba-boom. Right. Dweller, you call, your voice entering the void, struggling at its periphery before being subsumed. Dweller in thorns, hear my plea. Share with me the majesty of your being. I listen for a reply. I concentrate on the pulsing darkness. I ready myself to call into the void once more. I try to manifest an image of the dweller. I think I'll concentrate on the pulsing darkness. Bloop. All is still for a spell, save for black ripples at the fringes of your mind. Somewhere far away, you hear the nervous scuffle of rabbits in their enclosure. A ringing sensation forces its way up your spine, growing louder as it squeezes into the base of your neck. Who calls? Who calls? The voice sounds like the sway of a long grass on a moonless night. I call, you reply. The ringing sound is louder still, filling your skull, tearing at your concentration. A healer. This town is restless. I seek to bring it to slumber. They must sleep. Sleep. How may I serve? You ask, struggling to spell out the words in your mind. Unworthy one. Imposter. The words are rattling branches, drumming at the outskirts of your consciousness. The pain is becoming unbearable now, piercing and lacerating with every pulse. You try to respond, but it feels as if vines are tightening around your throat. Gasping, you begin to thrash and struggle, flailing out toward the barrier, your wayward fingertips brushing beneath its surface. Your eyes are flung wide as you suck air back into your grateful lungs, feeling returns to your limbs. You feel the texture of the cool cellar floor against your palm. Looking down, you see that your splayed fingers have broken the loose circle. A candle lies extinguished on its side. Climbing with care to your feet and using a nearby bench to support yourself, you set about snuffing out the other candles and relighting the torches. Whatever secrets the Dweller in Thorns hold, they have been kept to themselves. Ponder your next move. Was it naive to expect even a sliver of progress at this juncture? Alice asks, her voice muffled. She sits with her body slumped forward, face down and folded arms, her mask at her side. A hint of how we might best assist sickness. The three of you have reunited in the sanctuary cellar, having shared word that no insights have been uncovered. Ayoko maintains a slow pace back and forth in front of the rabbit enclosure. Even the rhythm of his footfalls managed to sound crestfallen. The crown, Moreland, they never intended for us to succeed, the man behind the Bormask says. Just like I said from the start. Well, I'm not giving up, Alice remarks, audible once more as she sits up to stretch her arms above her head. You've been quiet, Jack the Ripper. Anything to share? If we stay here, we're dead. It's time to consider escape as a serious option. Our fate is sealed, but we owe it to the people to keep trying. As long as there is time remaining, there is always hope. The deities reward the dutiful. If we stick to our tasks, they will aid us. Probably one of these. As long as there is time remaining, there is always hope. But that's the optimism we need, Alice says. Foolish, unjustified, yet quite necessary. Better than to wallow in despair. Is it? Iolko asks, pausing in his stride. Despair seems appropriate for our circumstances. Yet there is much on our side, too, you insist. Our understanding of the plague is incomplete. It falls far short of a cure. Sorry. Was this intended as an inspiring speech? The surgeon says, drawing a frown from Alice. Let him finish. Thank you, Alice, you say, returning to your point. Though our comprehension of the walking death has numerous gaps, we should also remember that 3 of us in this room, among all others in the realm, have the greatest combined knowledge of this sickness. What you say is true, Iolko exhales, but I fear it may do us no good. Scant knowledge is a little better than no knowledge at all. Not so, Alice says, and what Jack the Ripper is saying is that we have made progress. So long as there is some time on our side, the chance for further progression remains. And if that time expires, Moreland soldiers could be in the streets within a cycle of the sun. Let us hope it does not come to that, you say. Well, quite. You lose a battle to fighting off a yawn, and the indistinct sound rolls out louder than you expect. I think Jack the Ripper speaks for us all. The surgeon pushes back stiff shoulders, trying to stretch his back. Perhaps we can better approach this matter on the morrow. I see. He was referring to the yawn. Alice gives her reluctant agreement, and the 3 of you make movement toward the doorway. Turn in for the evening. The stonework of the courtyard fountain seems cold and uncomfortable against your back as you gaze up at the sky. A persistent wind, the same one that caused you to bundle up your robes and seek shelter behind the stone structure, has left cracks in the relentless march of the clouds, allowing occasional points of light to blink through. You ignore the creeping ache as the winter night assails your bones, focusing instead on those distant glimmers. Are they miniature suns? The faraway eyes of watching deities? Or simply another act of nature, like the snow or the rain? You grimace as you shift in place, and another jutting section of loose stonework prods against your shoulder blade. Perhaps with a better vantage point. Your gaze falls upon a familiar outline in the southeast corners of the courtyard. Colossal and ever-present, the sanctuary tower stretches upward into an embracing shroud of black. It may not touch the points of light, but every facet of its vast structure seems at this moment to reach for them. Standing, you brush the pieces of wet grass and flecks of frost from your robes, and make your way across the short distance to the entrance. Make the ascent. Like its twin, the southeast tower's summit is open to the sky. You lie on your back, listening to the wind pirouette and collide against the parapet at your feet. Above, the night sky seems to sit closer, as if you are elevated upon the tip of a gigantic wooden finger. As you take in a deep breath, you try to imagine all your fears and anxieties being drawn together in one spot. Then, with a forceful exhalation, you push them up and out. to be carried away by the wind. You repeat the exercise, watching the indistinct shapes of winter clouds pass by, as the faraway points of light seem to wink in and out of existence. For some time you lie like this, until a particularly harsh gust of wind reminds you of your exposed surroundings. Feeling a little more at peace, you make the long descent back to the base of the tower and cross the courtyard toward your waiting bed. Awaken, feeling rested. You stretch awake, surprising yourself at the lack of morning ache in your limbs. For the first time in days, you feel confident that your sleep has been somewhat restful. The sense of resolve lasts until you glimpse an ashen-faced messenger, scurrying down the sanctuary hallway with tidings of dire consequences. Baron Moreland's soldiers are mobilizing. Oh, shit. And that is the end of chapter 11, which also means the end of this stream. If anybody was watching, I hope you enjoyed if you did. And I hope to see you in the next stream. Later.